Welcome to this edition of Patriots No Huddle, brought to you by PatsFans.com. Derek Haven, Steve Balestrieri, Mike Diabate, your hosts as always. Thank you for everyone who's listening live, who's been subscribing to our Pats Fans YouTube channel, or maybe like, shared, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. Remember, if you haven't done it yet, please do it because it really does help support us and keeps us high in those podcast rankings so other Patriots fans can find us. Mike, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, doing great. Still in a flank two position, my friend, but always happy and always honored to be a part of this podcast. And we got a hell of a matchup coming up this weekend, gentlemen. This is going to be a fun one to break down.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As always, Steve, how we doing, man?
Good, good, very good. It's always good to be talking about a win rather than a loss, which
Especially a blowout win. Yeah.
yeah, we haven't had too many of those to talk about. So now there's a big litmus test coming up for the Patriots to see. I mean, it's not an end all be all for the year, but it's a good look to see where they're at the present time. Um, the Bills are on a roll. It's going to be Sunday night football, so everybody in the world will be watching.
Yeah, the game's going to be electric, and I hate to say it, but the Bills' rivalry uniforms are pretty clean. They're very good. A couple quick hitters, and then we're going to do some leftover thoughts on the Panthers, and then we'll dive right into the Bills. So a couple things is Marcus Jones was just announced as the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. I would say not surprising at all. And then, as Mike just reminded me before we went on the air, that Jelani Tavai they're able to open the window if he starts practicing. Again, it's a 21-day window once he's activated. We are recording this October 1st. Can't believe it's October already. Wednesday. So the Patriots should be practicing pretty soon. So we should get something hopefully while we're on the air shortly afterwards. The guys were off yesterday. Mike, I'll go to you first. What are any leftover thoughts that you have from the Panthers Patriots game this last weekend? Obviously, a thumping 42-13. What do you have? Any leftover thoughts from our conversation the other night?
Yeah, I think just two things to keep an eye on if you're a Patriots fan this week from the Panthers game heading into this week 5 matchup with the Buffalo Bills. Running back by committee. Is this going to be something that Josh McDaniels is going to employ regularly? We touched on this a little bit on Sunday night, but the carries were more evenly distributed. The Patriots were able to protect the football. I think it took some pressure off of Ramondre being the lead guy and constantly having to carry the rock first and second down. Travion Henderson is starting to show some signs of that confidence that we believe is going to make him one of the most electric playmakers on this roster. And Antonio Gibson is a veteran presence that knows how to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a solid option as a receiver, but he can carry it as well. If these three are able to work in a rotation, it opens up so much for Drake May, whether it be on play action or whether it be, to utilize the intermediate areas of the field or take deep shots down the field. If Stephon Diggs turns on the Jets, and he's going to be motivated for this one. So something to keep an eye on there on the offense. On the defense, keep an eye out for Jalen Hawkins. That's going to be a very interesting watch this week at practice. Hamstring injuries are always iffy. And right now, the hamstring injury kept him out of the majority of Sunday's game against the Panthers. Can he bounce back? Can he start practicing? If not, Patriots are a little thin at that position right now. All of a sudden, the release of Jabril Peppers becomes huge, really, I think, looming large on this club because of the lack of depth they may have there. A lot going to be placed on the shoulders of Kyle Duggar, who hasn't had a long, workload or a long resume these last few months here in New England. Those could be interesting things to watch as the Patriots head in. But what more can you say? I mean, this was an A-team effort in all three phases, and it's great to see the Patriots clicking on all cylinders heading into what is, to date, their toughest matchup.
Yeah, it definitely. And a couple things you hit on there. Stevenson, 9 carries, Henderson, 7 carries, Gibson, 6 carries. I expect this to continue being kind of a three-headed monster and kind of rotating and putting guys in positions to succeed. It's tough. I think the Ramondre Stevenson one is one that we could definitely have because he, the offense kind of runs through him a lot, and they utilize him a lot. But he's had so many mistakes that it's like, what's the breaking point for the coaching staff where maybe you have to sit him down? It's like, I don't think you can afford to do that. You're not going to cut him. I mean, he's not going to be cut. But I do think that they've utilized him a lot on offense. So it's kind of a tough predicament to be in if you're that coaching staff and front office in New England. So I think that's one. My leftover thoughts really from the game is as I went back to watch it, I do think tackling is still an issue. Certainly on the initial tackle, I will say that when I watch the game and I watch every game twice, I've noticed that the team swarms to the ball carrier. If someone misses, they do swarm to him, so they usually take it down quickly after. But there's just too many missed opportunities, and I don't want to foreshadow too many thoughts. And we'll put a pin in this and talk about it for the Bills matchup. But they can't really afford to do that against this Bills team, especially with Josh Allen and James Cook in the backfield. So that's going to be something that we really need to keep an eye on, and we'll talk about here in a bit. But Mike, I thought you brought up some great points. For me, my biggest takeaway is just watching how comfortable Drake May looked in the offense, and just how he's they're using his athleticism to kind of shift the defenses, and he had some really great throws in this. His confidence is growing. On Patriots.com, they released mic'd up video. If you haven't watched it, I would implore you to go watch it. It was Drake May and Hunter Henry, and I thought Hunter Henry, as always, showed he's the leader he is, and I thought that I took away from it a little bit the most that I think Drake May's become more of a vocal leader, more confident in the second year, and I think that's a good thing. Steve, any leftover thoughts from the Panthers game?
Well, you talked about the mic'd up video. I think there was a really good one where it shows the type of atmosphere, I guess you could say, that Mike Vrabel's trying to, build on here.
Can I guess?
Right after the Hunter Henry touchdown.
The pop?
Yeah. I mean, Vrabel runs up to Hunter Henry and tells him, hey, Pop caused that. He made the great block. Blah blah blah. I'm paraphrasing here, but
he said he sprung you, I think.
Yeah,
like
and then he kind of urged him to say something, and Hunter Henry sat down and said, "There's no way I make that." Again, paraphrasing, without your help, buddy. Blah blah blah, and that's the kind of stuff that's like, okay, this is what they're trying to build here. It's that team first mentality, and I thought that was really nice, because you get to hear it and see it in real time. And, those are the kind of things that you're looking at. And hey, it might not mean much in the grand scheme of things. It might mean a heck of a lot down the road. So.
Yeah, but I think, Steve, it's a kind of a micro thing that actually is a building block for a macro thing, right? So, yeah, just a one small comment at this period of time, but it's really about the bigger picture. Like you said, it's about team building, chemistry, making sure that you're building a young guy's confidence with a veteran on the team. I thought that was definitely an excellent point. To your point, Mike, about Jalen Hawkins and that injury, they are kind of thin there. The safety play has been kind of up and down. I think we're going to see a lot more Kyle Duggar. I thought he was a little active in this last game too. And I've been a little disappointed with the linebacker play to this point. I thought Spillane did have a very good game, and I'm really wondering about the Jack Gibbons, Christian Ellis debate and who starts in this one. I think, though, guys, I would say the defensive line might be the best unit from a positional standpoint on the entire roster. Mike, would you agree with that, or do you would you agree with that, or is there another position that you think would top the defensive line?
If you're talking all 4 games throughout this year, yeah, I would probably say the defensive line is consistently among the best performers. I mean, Christian Barmore and Milton Williams have been a monstrous tandem, and they're not always going to show up in the stat sheet as being dominant in terms of, sack numbers or tackle numbers. But what these guys do to place pressure on opposing offensive lines is truly remarkable. Go back, watch these tapes again, watch the games again, and you'll see how disruptive these two guys can be, and they're a solid complement for each other, and they're both playing at a high level. Kyrieus Tonga, I think, has been an excellent addition to this team,
I'm glad you
coming
brought
in and
that
giving
up.
situational blocking in the middle. Now, the defensive line arguably had their weakest game this weekend because they did yield a lot of yardage on the ground to the Carolina Panthers, but we talked about this on Sunday night. You're going to give them the run when you're up by that much. You have to. I mean, you just want to eliminate the big play and trying to get a quick 6 or a quick 7 points on the board. You want to keep them with arm's length as much as possible. So let them run the ball all day long. I'm not going to hold that too much against them. I think this defensive line has been excellent. And then you got guys like Landry and White who can play that hybrid defensive end, pseudo linebacker role and be able to give you some solid contributions there. So based on the backs of Barmore and Williams, yeah, I'd say this unit is the tops on the Patriots. Certainly the best unit by far on their defense.
Well, Milton Williams and Christian Barmore have been fantastic. Tonga, I don't know what I'd have to look back at the percentage, but it feels like he plays like a third of the time, and maybe that's by design. But I think he's been impactful. I think he's made plays. I think he brings energy. And yeah, I wanted to shout out the defensive line group for the Patriots and I think that's going to be a huge factor in this game we're going to talk about here, right now. So I guess, Steve, I'll give you the first whack at it. Initial thoughts on the Patriots going to the Bills, Sunday Night Football. Really, really exciting matchup, prime time. Again, the Bills rivalry uniforms are all white. So I would assume the Patriots are going to go blue on blue. I know that the Bills tweeted out that they want fans to wear all white, and they're handing out towels to every fan, white towels. So it's going to be a whiteout game, which I think will be just an electric atmosphere. But give me your first thoughts on this game coming up.
Well, I think it's it's a perfect segue into what you were just talking about, because the Patriots defensive line, right, they're number 2 in the league against the run. Buffalo Bills are averaging 163 yards per game on the ground. So there's your top matchup right there. Buffalo's offense has been on a roll, and it's because they run the ball right down people's throats. Patriots defense has been excellent against the run, only allowing 77 yards a game. So something's going to give you. And the key for the Patriots, obviously, is to limit the amount of damage that that running game, has against you. And look, you're not going to shut it down. I mean, that's not going to happen. But if you can slow it down enough to where you're forcing them, to throw the ball on third downs, then you have a puncher's chance of hanging in there and maybe stealing a win. But the Bills right now, I mean, they're 4-0. They look really, really good. This is going to be a really big test for them, especially on the road. And we've seen for years, right, how crazy that stadium can get when the Patriots go up there. This is a Sunday night national game. Everyone's going to be dressed in white, waving white towels. Visually, this is going to be like pretty awesome stuff. I think it should end up being, hopefully, a really good football game.
Yeah, I think that I'm really worried. I'm really worried about the run defense in this game, especially because Kayvon Chason has. I think he offers value as a pass rusher, but he has not been able to set the edge. And again, we go back to the missed tackles. So they're going to really have to button that up this week. That has to be a point of emphasis. If you let Josh Allen just run all over you and quick little passes out of the backfield to James Cook, and he can take the yak for 10, 15 yards, and you're giving up these chunk plays, you're going to get steamrolled. It's going to be, a non-factor. Mike, what about you? What are your initial thoughts for this week coming up?
Well, without any question, this is going to be their toughest test to date in all three phases. This Buffalo Bills team is clicking on all cylinders. And look, you mentioned the run defense and you mentioned their ability to be able to stop. Buffalo certainly has their share of good runners. And, James Cook is among the best in the league at being able to do that. But Buffalo has a number of different weapons that they can utilize at their disposal to be able to beat. I think it's going to be very interesting to find out who Christian Gonzalez is going to match up against in that secondary. Do they test him now against Keon Coleman? Is that going to be someone who they try to shut off because of his explosive playmaking ability? This is a real chess match for Mike Vrabel, and a lot of different ways that the Bills can hurt you. I'm really concerned at this point, or I should say, intrigued, I guess is the better way to put it. I don't want to say I'm concerned because I don't want to worry Patriots Nation out there, but I'm intrigued by the potential matchups that we're going to see because Buffalo just has so many ways to be able to take games over and to really put teams on their heels. Can the Patriots hit them early and kind of knock them off of their game? If they do that, I think they got a very good shot to make this one an interesting game. If Buffalo starts to set up in the same way that we've seen them set up throughout the season, probably going to be a long night in Orchard Park.
This is one of those games. I mean, I was surprised by the Jabril Peppers release anyway, and he's played very well for Pittsburgh so far. But this would be an ideal game where you bring Peppers in the box and have him spy Josh Allen. So he, because he's the kind of person, Peppers, I mean, is able. Sorry, I'm a little hoarse today, guys. I don't know what's going on. But he's the kind of person who I think you could put and spy him and have the violence and strength and tackling ability to handle that role. And I do think that would be a factor, and that would be important. I don't know exactly how they handle it. I think Spillane, it's hard to ask Spillane to do it simply because he's kind of controlling the middle of that field. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering what the game plan is going to be. I'm hoping that Vrabel comes up with something. And, Steve, we mentioned this on our traditional show before the show yesterday. I do think another factor in this game that's incredibly important is the Patriots just kind of surviving that first wave, because it's going to be, again, prime time, electric crowd, towels waving, big matchup. The team needs to make sure that they settle down and they take on that initial rush. And then if they can just handle the emotion and those initial waves, I do think that they can be competitive. But we've talked about this before. The Patriots have played 4 games so far in the season, and they have let up a touchdown to the opposing offense 3 of the first 4. The only one was the Dolphins, and they scored on the second drive. So if you're going to allow that crowd to be fired up by the Bills and let them go down the field and score a touchdown, instantly you're in trouble and kind of over your head. Don't you think, Steve?
Well, it all depends. I mean, look, what we just talked about a few minutes ago, right, is Buffalo being able to run the football. So, if you slow that down, right, and you're forcing them to go elsewhere, that plays into your overall game plan. And don't forget, if we talked about them being able to, hang with them, that to your point, the initial wave, right? If the game stays close, the flip side of that is Buffalo's defense is actually giving up more yardage on the ground than their offense has gained. So they're giving up 164 yards and 6 yards a carry on the ground. Now, part of that is because they've been so far ahead, right? And so, like we talked about earlier with the Patriots and Panthers, they'll give you that run, okay, um, when they're way ahead because you're not going to, they're trying to take away the pass. But the fact remains that you can run to a degree against this defense. So the two things play hand in hand. They have to be able to hang with them and keep the score close, and then you'll be able to run the football and keep things balanced. But yeah, I, I agree with you to the point of, hey, look, this place is going to be rocking. The last thing you need is to get a couple of scores down where it's taking you out of your game plan, where you're forced to throw, and that crowd noise will be deafening. So, again, everything plays into each other.
Oh, we got a frozen one. There we go. Mike, what do you think about that whole concept?
Yeah, I think that Steve hit the nail right on the head. Look, I think as much as we want to, herald the matchup in the Buffalo Bills on the offensive side of the ball, and look, whenever you employ Josh Allen as your quarterback, you're doing something right. But let's remember that this Buffalo Bills defense has its issues that the New England Patriots can't exploit if they get hot. They've got an incredible knack of being able to utilize the intermediate areas of the field right now that Drake May is utilizing. And I think for right now, it's made him a much better quarterback, and his weapons are starting to come around. I think it's kind of a tale of two teams right now because you're seeing what Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper can do at the tight end position. And I'm going to get our good friend Claire Cooper excited here because I'm going to talk some tight endage. I think this could be an important chess match to see which tight endage tandem is going to be able to come out on top. Henry and Hooper have really emerged into a really solid pass catching tandem, and their blocking, I think, has improved each and every week. Where the Bills, I think, hold a little bit more of a trump card, so to speak, when it comes to this matchup, is the fact that both Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid they're expert blockers. And I think, when you look at that, they hold the slight edge right now. But Kincaid, to me, is going to be a very tough matchup for the New England Patriots if Jalen Hawkins is not able to go. Who covers the tight ends at this point, and who's going to be able to give him a run for his money? He can change the complexity of an offense without any question. This kid's a big-time player. He's great after the catch. He can win on contact over the middle, which is where I expect Josh to try to utilize him when this offense starts to get going. He's really, really good as a blocker as well. And then you look at someone like Knox, who hasn't necessarily been the tight end that Buffalo Bills fans thought he would be early on, but what a solid complimentary number two. I love the success this kid can have. Space sitting down in those soft zones. He utilizes the flat combinations. That's where Josh really loves to utilize him. I can see the Patriots trying to do the same thing to the Buffalo Bills defense as well. Whoever can win that matchup, it opens up so much for your running game to be able to be that much effective. Here, you might actually see the tight ends facilitate the game for the running backs instead of the other way around. It just depends on which team is going to be able to win that chess match.
Yeah, we also have to talk about the Stephon Diggs revenge game factor, So I wonder if he has a little extra pep in his step this week coming off a big game in his first 100-yard game. And I think it was 24 games it took him, or there was a 24-game gap before he had it. So that will be an interesting thing, Steve, to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be on national TV, and Diggs wants to show out quite well. On national TV, show the world, hey, I'm all the way back. I'm still a top receiver, in the league. So, there's a little added motivation there, be playing against his former team. I don't know if I call it a revenge factor, but yeah, it's like, the girl that dumps you, you want to show up at the next dance with the better looking one than she was.
Absolutely. And we've hopefully I didn't freeze. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. My screen just froze for a second. And Drake, I'm sorry, Josh Allen mentioned before the season started that him and Drake May formed quite a good relationship over the offseason, much to the chagrin of many Patriots fans and Bills fans, probably. But I don't want to speak for him, so I have to double check it. But I think he even mentioned they worked out together. Um, uh, and he talked about Drake's ability and what a solid guy he is. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It sucks that I like Josh Allen so much, considering he's in the division, but he's a heck of a player. So to get some high praise for your second-year quarterback, from him is certainly, certainly impressive. But if they can squeak this one out, Mike, the Patriots, I mean, if they can go in, this would be a statement win. I mean, this would be a huge, huge win. Now, even if the Patriots were to win this game on Sunday night, I still would have the Bills winning the division. But it would be Drake May's first win against a opponent with an above 500 record. It would be the first time they've beaten the Bills in, I guess, just a little while. But in Buffalo, having a nice road win in prime time would kind of elevate Drake May's stock. And if Drake May has over 75% completion and at least 2 touchdown passes in this week, that will be his 4th consecutive game doing so, which would tie with Tom Brady, who is the top of the leaderboard in that category. So there's a lot of opportunity here to really make some, kind of pound the table for the Patriots moments, Mike.
Oh yeah, without any question. And again, it's going to be whether or not Drake is going to be able to have similar success to what he had on Sunday against the Panthers. And that's a very tough task because Buffalo's defense is by far the better unit, and they're going to be much more well equipped to be able to deal with what the Patriots are going to be able to do. But if Drake is playing in a mode where he's able to feel a lot of the same comfort that he's felt right along, yeah, I think he can make things interesting. And this is where the offensive line comes up. Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver right now is questionable. We're not sure what's going to happen this week with him. He's going to be someone to keep an eye on. But if this team right now is able to stand up to a formidable Bills defensive front, and I say this team, I mean the Patriots offensive line, who's been very good. And I think they were excellent in Sunday's win over the Panthers. That's going to mean so much for Drake May. His comfort level is so dependent on the protection that he's getting up front. And that left side has been very good. It's been as advertised. They lose Jared Wilson. Ben Brown comes in and plays at a really high caliber level and really is a solid complement to Will Campbell. On the right side, Owenu and Moses have been, pretty good as well. I thought they had their best game as a tandem on Sunday, although a lot of, some may, question Owenu's game, but I think overall, I think he held up pretty well. New England right now is going to need their best game of the year from their offensive line to make that happen. If they do, Derek, to your point, yeah, I think you could see some successes for Drake May. And based on that, anything's possible.
I just think, again, for me, it's like, okay, you weather the storm at the beginning, try to make a play, just get the Bills off the field, assuming let's just say they have the ball first, okay? And then, I think you want to start a little conservative for the Patriots, try to get Drake into a little bit of a rhythm because it's going to be a crazy atmosphere. So some slants, some, intermediate throws, some screens, some checkdowns. Just try to keep Josh Allen and the Bills offense on the sideline and don't let them get their wheels just ripping forward. And, I think, again, the other way, my biggest concern is that, Drake seems a little rattled. To your point, Mike, the offensive line kind of plays poorly like they did. Like they didn't, the offensive line really didn't play that great last week. I know that's crazy considering how much they won by, but it was only okay in my view. But I do think they have a much tougher test with this Bills defensive front here. So it's just about kind of how the game, what's the phrase, like how the game kind of unfolds, once kickoff happens. So Steve, where do you want to go next with this one? Because again, we can go a couple different directions here.
Well, and we're forgetting, you know, the third phase of the game, because if the Patriots are going to pull off a monumental upset here, special teams might have to play a big factor in that. I mean, we saw how the Patriots special teams basically turned that game on its ear, right? They didn't start off well. They started off slow, and then special teams got the ball rolling, and they never looked back. Well, if they're going to pull off a big upset on Sunday night in Buffalo, special teams is going to have to do that again.
Yep.
Not necessarily to the tune of 160 something yards in returns, but they're going to have to come up with some big plays to flip the field, possibly get a score. Who knows? But and pin the Bills back deep, right? I mean, that's one of the things you want to be able to do, and I think that you're talking about complementary football, all three phases. This is going to have to be a big part of it.
Yeah, if Marcus Jones takes one to the house again this week, you're gonna see me running down the street naked like Will Ferrell in Old School, So I'll be doing cartwheels. I'll be calling Steve to fly out and bail me out because I know my wife won't. Yeah, but I agree with that. I mean, it's definitely going to be a factor. Field position, which has been kind of a topic of discussion. And I do have a random question for you guys later, but I'll hold it for when we do other game predictions. But hopefully Borregales in that kind of situation can continue to kind of keep building. But it's always an X factor. What do we always say? It's special. No one cares about special teams until they matter. So, Mike, any thoughts on the special teams game? Because I do think that element is interesting.
Well, I think in a lot of ways you got to understand with the Bills right now. They're dealing with essentially a makeshift specialist group there in Buffalo. Matt Prater is the place kicker. Obviously, Tyler Bass is on injured reserve. Cameron Johnston, their punter, is on injured reserve. Mitch Wishnowsky is the guy that's taking the snaps there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Buffalo comes out and attacks this third phase in the game. Whenever the Patriots have had success against the Bills, Steve is absolutely right. And we talked a little bit about this on Sunday night as well, that special teams unit for the Patriots sparking these wins with big runs or big plays, whether it be Marcus Jones or whether it be Antonio Gibson in week 2 against the Dolphins. Those types of plays have to be a catalyst for the Patriots to be able to control the tempo and control the time of possession. So are the Bills going to be able to come away with big plays as well? Their return game, Brandon Codrington is their return man, both on punts and on kicks. Don't be a bit surprised to see guys like Ty Johnson, Khalil Shakir, Elijah Moore. They may get some touches simply because the New England Patriots have been very good in coverage. They know how to defend this team. They know how to essentially block and essentially cover this team. Can the Bills try a little razzle dazzle to try to get them off their guard? I do look for Sean McDermott to maybe lean on his special teams coaching a little bit and try maybe a little something, give the Patriots a wrinkle into something they haven't seen before. But yeah, special teams I think is going to be essential to both sides. Who wins that battle could end up being who wins the game.
Yeah, I definitely think so. What's our confidence level, Steve, going into this game as a Patriots fan? 1 to 10. 10 being the most confident, 1 being not confident at all. What do you think?
I would say about a 5 right now. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, because they blew out the Panthers, that they're going to go in and kick the snot out of Buffalo, because I don't see that happening. I think the confidence level would be, look, maybe at this early juncture of the season, and we're still early in the season, and you're still trying to build something. Maybe this is a LA Rams 2001 type of game. Like, okay, maybe you don't go in there and win. Not saying they're not going to try to win, I mean, obviously they will, but you come up short, but at the same time, it's a close enough game where you're like, hey, we can hang with these guys later on in the season. We keep improving. We'll be able to, go in and beat these guys. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for out of this game, because expecting them to go into Buffalo right now while they're on a roll and beat them, I mean, that's a pretty heady task. Now, that being said, Buffalo's 4-0. Are they going to go 17-0? No. They're going to lose somewhere. And maybe this is the week where they, lay an egg, so to speak. The last 2 weeks, actually, against opponents that I thought they would blow out, the games have been a little bit closer. I thought they were going to annihilate the Saints. They won by double digits, but at the same time, it wasn't a blowout win. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
that's where the confidence level for me is. Hey, look, you're still in the middle of building something. Just go in there, go, all 4 quarters against this team, and be able to hang with them, and then you're going to come out of there with your head held high. Not saying it's a moral victory, but it's a building block.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my confidence level right now is around 6. So, I mean, obviously, people who know me know how optimistic I am, so no one's surprised that I'm more optimistic than Steve in the rating. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if they go in and it's just like an old school boxing match, and they're trading blows, and Drake May's making plays and looks comfortable in a big game setting, and it's a 1-score game, I think you can walk out of that game. And yeah, I mean, sometimes there are moral victories, especially when you're a team that's kind of a fringe wild card team and really expected to be right around 500. So just because, and if it's not like the sky is falling if they lose this game. I mean, it's they have 2 more road games after this, and so it's going to be a hard little haul here, but there's definitely some winnable games on the schedule coming up. So I think that's definitely a factor as well. Mike, your confidence level 1 through 10 going in.
Yeah, I'm aligning with Steve right now. Mine's at about a 5. And look, that's in no way diminishing what this Patriots team did over the weekend. I was really excited and really encouraged by what I saw in all 3 phases from the Pats. And I think they can build on that. And I think it means more than just, oh, they blew out a bad team in the Carolina Panthers. That really doesn't matter. It's the way they played, the attitude that they had, and the initiative that they showed in getting better in areas where just a week ago they looked pretty deficient. That's all encouraging stuff. And because of that, I think this is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. But you look at that Bills roster, and that Bills roster is simply deeper than the New England Patriots at almost every level. The running backs, we talked earlier about Stevenson and Henderson and Gibson, that trio, that 3-headed monster. Well, the Bills have a 3-headed juggernaut of their own in James Cook and Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, who is a solid 3rd down option. Do not ignore him. Listen to that name. You're going to hear it called a few times on Sunday night. The Bills love to utilize him, and he's a guy that can really make things happen and potentially be an X factor in this game. Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir. These guys are all capable of making big plays, and Josh Allen loves to utilize his big play receivers, but he is the guy that makes it happen. And you have to be able to defend him. You have to be able to utilize all of your strengths to be able to keep him in check. Patriots have had some success in defending Josh Allen before. Go back, take a look at how these Bill Belichick defenses used to contain Josh Allen. Even last year under Gerard Mayo, the Patriots had some success in being able to neutralize him. So don't necessarily completely turn the page and ignore everything the Patriots have done in the past. I know Mike Vrabel has been very gung-ho on doing that, out with the old, in with the new, to hell with everything that happened before I got here, but sometimes learning from the past is the best way to move forward. I'd caution the New England Patriots to be mindful of the successes they've had against the Bills in previous years this weekend when they go up to Orchard Park. But Yeah, right now, I mean, I think you guys put it very well. It's going in and making an effort, playing complete football for all 4 quarters, not making yourself beat yourself. If the Bills beat you, everyone expects it. No one's going to look down on you for that. But if you go in and beat yourself and end up limping away from Highmark Stadium at the hands of the Bills and really suffering a really crippling defeat, yeah, that's going to be something that will set the team back. You don't want to see that if you're the New England Patriots. Anything beyond that, to me, is a win in this circumstance.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do, especially with the penalties, Mike, to your point, like I just if they go in there and they just keep having these penalties and shooting themselves in the foot, putting them deep behind the sticks, you know, coughing the ball up. This is not a game where you can have a lot of turnovers. You know, maybe you have one, but if you start coughing the ball up multiple times and having all these pre-snap penalties or whatever, I mean, I think you're gonna get run out of the building. So something you just said, and I'll go to you, Steve, for this too. Something you just said kind of sparked this in me. Who do you put Christian Gonzalez on? Or is it just a rotation? Or is there a certain player that you think he should be on?
Well, that's going to be the number one question. That's going to be, I think, the
Mhm.
question that everybody's going to wonder throughout this game, or throughout this week, I should say. My guess would be Keon Coleman. I think Keon has the opportunity to be that game-breaking receiver that the Buffalo Bills would love to be able to deploy against the secondary that is still trying to find its identity. They looked much better last week against the Carolina Panthers. Christian was able to hold Ted McMillan in check. I think he's going to try to do the same thing with Keon Coleman this time. I worry about the speed, though, because Christian is still getting his game legs back. So maybe what they do is they decide that they're going to put him on Khalil Shakir, who is the Buffalo Bills' most experienced receiver in that set. Maybe they employ someone like a Marcus Jones or an Alex Austin to kind of sandwich Keon to try to hold him in check. And let's not forget, they've got Joshua Palmer, they've got Terrell Shavers that can hurt you and be effective weapons in the slot. Curtis Samuel is someone that has contended for Pro Bowl spots and whatnot in the past. His history in Washington and now coming over to Buffalo, he's someone that has been to the puppet show and seen the strings. Very savvy veteran there. And once again, it's going to be who in that defensive backfield are you going to put on Kincaid and Knox to try to stop that two-handed tight-ended monster? So my guess right now, long-winded response on this, I would say Coleman, but it would not surprise me the Patriots went in a different direction considering how fast Keon can be. It might be a little too much for Christian to ask in his second game of the season.
Do we know if Carlton Davis is playing in this game?
He should be.
Okay.
He returned to the game.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't heard anything on it, and I know it's early, but see, I was kind of thinking maybe you put Carlton Davis on Keon Coleman, and then use just because Keon is such a strong kind of go up and get the ball kind of guy, and I figured you could use Carlton's length for that, and then use the speed of Christian Gonzalez and the fluidness to go on Shakur, who the the Bills kind of lean on sometimes for, as Mike said, the most experienced receiver on that roster. So I don't know. I guess you could play it. I could see it going both ways. I mean, who do I think, could be? I could see a couple of different things. The other thing that you could consider too is that maybe you want to use Carlton Davis on one of the tight ends. Like maybe you want to put him on Kincaid, and then you do put Gonzalez on. You do put Gonzalez on Keon Coleman, and then maybe use Marcus Jones on Shakir, and you kind of go down the list there. Steve, any thoughts on that?
I think that's a good point. I mean, it's going to depend. Again, a lot of it is going to depend on the running game. I mean, they have to be able to slow down that running game, because if they're eating you up with chunk runs time and again, it's going to open up play action passing, and then it really won't matter who's on who, because things are going to be wide open. But I like your point there about maybe flipping the script a little bit. It's going to be interesting, because one of the things that they've struggled against is the tight ends, and I wonder if Buffalo's game plan will be attack in the middle of the field with the tight ends in this first, and then using their wide receivers as a complementary, passing attack. We'll have to see how it all plays out, but I think, yeah, I'm kind of on the train where I think Gonzalez will be matched up with Keon Coleman, but we may be way off on that. So
Right.
we'll have to see.
Well, before we get into our final, like not really final thoughts, but we go into predictions and everything else, I want to bring up one topic that's been kind of a heated topic around sports radio from the other night is Steve Balestrieri. Should there be ties in the NFL ever?
I'm one of those people that kind of on the fence with this. Look, nobody likes a tie. I mean, I watched that game, with the Packers and Cowboys, and it felt like at the end both teams lost because it was a tie. The way the offenses were moving up and down the field and scoring, but at the same time, you don't want to see it take on a college football atmosphere where,
Yep.
okay, yeah, we're going to that college overtime rule, which I don't really like. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. Absolutely don't want to see ties, but by the same token, I don't want to see an 8 overtime game either, where each team keeps scoring from the other team's 20. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I get it. I personally hate it. I think the only time a tie should be allowed in the NFL is in the preseason. There's no point of, that's a totally different thing. So preseason, no ties. Obviously postseason, they obviously can't do that. Regular season, to me, the only solution is, okay, both teams get a possession and then it's sudden death. And you make the quarter, not 10 minutes, you make it a regular 15 minutes and you just keep playing the game until somebody scores and they just finish it. I don't see how I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this, but I just hate seeing ties. I just don't think it makes sense. I feel like I don't know. That's just me. I can die on that hill alone, but it does bother me. It kind of goes right.
No one likes
my
seeing
gears.
a tie. Yeah, no one likes seeing a tie, especially like I said, both teams scoring 40 points, right?
Right.
They were just moving down the field at will, and it just like I said, when it ended up being a tie, you kind of walked away feeling like both teams lost there, you know. So,
Mike, what do you think?
Well, I think it's just like anything else. And my dad used to tell me all the time, what are your options? That's the whole thing to me with a tie. It's like, okay, it's all well and good to want to eliminate them. And to be totally honest with you, I never want to see them either. No one wants to see their favorite team or any team have to end a game in a tie. You want a decisive winner. That's why you watch these games. But what do? I think to Steve's point, do you go to that college, extended overtime, extend the periods, or keep playing in that regard? I've heard tiebreakers be thrown around like, oh, you go to a shootout or you go to 2-point conversions, and then to me it becomes like a circus type atmosphere. And I've never been a fan of shootouts, whether it's the NHL, whether it's penalty kicks in soccer and European football. To me, it's just it screams all-star game instead of competitive, balance at that point. So it's a it's a real slippery slope to think about it. Yeah, do I want to see them in the game? No, I don't want to see them in the game, but do they belong in the game based on, the longevity of these types of games and how long they can go on and the potential for injury and things of that nature? Yeah, it's hard for me to argue against them having a place in it. So, like Steve, I'm kind of on the fence on this one, but I don't like to see that, but I think it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of fakakta ideas on this. I mean, I've heard go to the college rules. I've heard my thing where it's like just let them keep playing. Extend it from 10 to 15 minutes, which I think kind of like the most. I've heard the 2-point conversion thing to your point, which I think is kind of gimmicky. Even more gimmicky. I've heard people say that both kickers try 50-yard field goals. I mean, everybody has an opinion, but I do think, to your point, Mike, and I thought the phrase you used was a well said one, which is it is a slippery slope. But I would almost guarantee, and I know some people will also say, by the way, that even though no one wants to see him, it happens like every couple of years. It's not like this is happening like all the time. So I've heard the argument, why change it if it's something that happens, once every 4 years, hypothetically. So I guess I can see that point too. But I do think, when they get to the owners' meetings, when they get to talking about rules and when they get to rule changes in the offseason, I do have a feeling this might be a topic of conversation because it did take over sports radio for a little bit. But what else is new? I mean, everything.
Yeah. Be honest, and I love my hockey, right? During the regular season, when it goes to a shootout, I turn the game off because to me, I hate that. I hate the shootout rule. I think it's awful. And like you said, Derek, it's a gimmicky circus thing. And as far as I'm concerned, the game ended in a tie, right? And I don't mind the overtime rule that they have in the NHL where, it tries to generate some scoring by playing shorthanded, each team. I can live with that part, but when it comes to the shootout, I turn the game off. And I don't want to see that with the NFL. I don't want to see a shootout type of.
I think a shootout is a little bit less gimmicky than some of the other things we've talked about, and I'm only bringing this up because it's a rare time that you and I kind of disagree. But I do understand what you're saying. I guess there's just a lot of objectivity, and a lot of people have opinions on this thing, so it's hard. Let's get into our three game predictions around the league, and then we'll get into the Patriots. We're going to start with tomorrow night's game. 49ers at the Rams. Divisional game. Should be a good one. And Brock Purdy, I think, is questionable, if I'm not mistaken. So we could see another return of the Mac game. So I guess for me, I'll go first on this one. It's hard because I do think the Rams have been relatively impressive. Going back to last year when a lot of people thought they were going to kind of flop, but at the same time, I just know how much of a monster Christian McCaffrey is. So I go back and forth, but I am going to lean the Rams at home by, I think it's going to be less than a 1-score game. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. The 49ers are still beat up a little bit. Brock Purdy might not play. Might see more Mac Jones. Boy, wouldn't that cause, quarterback controversy if Purdy doesn't play and Mac Jones on Thursday Night Football leads them to a big win. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm with you on this one. I'm leaning toward the Rams in a close game over the 49ers tomorrow.
Mike, what about you, bud?
Yeah, let's make it unanimous. I'm going with the Rams on this one as well. And again, for the reasons that the Rams are at home. I know, last weekend, was a tough one for them. But look, they stood toe to toe with the champs. You can't deny that and argue that point. I think San Francisco being banged up and having the injuries that they have right now, they're still getting back into shape. McCaffrey will keep them close, but I do like the Rams in a close one on this one on Thursday night.
Yeah, the Rams are 7-point favorites according to DraftKings, so just wanted to throw that out there. So we're all kind of, right in that thing. There's a couple of kind of, gross-looking games, this week. If you just look around, just because based on like either injuries or whatever it is, like Texans-Ravens would be good, but Lamar Jackson's now out for a couple of weeks. And, you could say the same thing about, you could say the same thing about a couple of games. I mean, the Panthers are hosting the Dolphins. I mean, there's those seats are going to be about as empty as as they can be. But
can't be any worse than the Dolphins Jets on Monday night. So.
Oh, that made me want to hurl. I had it on the background, and it literally, I looked at my wife at one point and said, "Why do we even have this game on? Let's just throw on. let's just watch a TV show or something, documentary." But I did think this one jumped out at me though. Broncos at Philadelphia. I think that's going to be a fun one. Mike, I'll go to you first on that one, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me is going to be one of the sleeper, really good games to watch this weekend, and Bo Nix is going to have his opportunity to showcase what he can do. I love what Denver's building there. That's a solid ball club in all three phases. But again, as the great Ric Flair would say, to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And right now, I just don't see this team is at that level to be able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they'll give them a close game, and I think it could go either way. If Denver gets a few breaks to bounce their way, anything and everything is possible. But right now, I see the Philadelphia Eagles taking this. I'll take the Eagles by a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles probably by like closer to 10, but I think it might be a little bit of a backdoor thing where they get some late points. I do think, to your point, it's going to be a battle. That defensive front seven for Philadelphia is just so dominant. It just totally impacts the game. And, Bo Nix is a quarterback with a lot of college experience. He's in his second year, very poised. I always picture him kind of like a point guard. He just knows how to distribute the ball. Usually smart. He did have at least one turnover that I saw in the game Monday. But, going into Philadelphia is going to be a tough one for them. I just don't see them at that point being able to upset them. But I do think that similar to the Bills, the Eagles are going to drop one eventually. So I could see the Broncos being a sneaky upset if Philadelphia's not ready for it. To me, because it just comes down to how does Bo Nix and the offensive line for Denver control that Philadelphia front seven. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think this is going to be a close game, but I just like Philly at home. I mean, to me, and again, I'll mention this again because I'm sure Russ's ears are burning. They remind me of that 2003 Patriots team.
That's going to set them off.
They can play whatever game you want to play. If you want to play smash mouth, run the football, they can do that. You want to throw the ball, they can do that. And they're going to be hard out, every week because they're so loaded and they're playing at home. I like Philly in this one.
Yeah, DraftKings has them as a -3.5 favorite. So actually kind of a closer spread than I thought it would be, but they are still favored in the game. The next game I wanted to talk about, which I thought would be interesting, would be Buccaneers at Seahawks, gentlemen. I think this could be a fun one too.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield has been really rolling. I've been impressed with rookie receiver Emeka Ebeka out of Ohio State for Tampa as well. Mike Evans is out, so that is something. Seattle's defense is rolling, and they look like they have found some rhythm on offense. When Kenneth Walker's healthy, he's definitely impactful. And obviously, I just think it's going to be one of those games where I just think it's going to be a close one. This could be a very tight kind of game that we're watching, with, split screen, red zone on one and focusing on this one on the other. I think that could be a good one in the afternoon slot. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bucs in this one. I think their running game is going to be the difference here. I look for that.
Well, their running back, Bucky Irvin, I don't think he's playing in this game.
Oh, he's out?
He hasn't been ruled out, I don't think, but I think he was in a walking boot, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
so that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that would be the X factor in this one, right? If he's able to go, because I really liked it. I really like him. I think, that's something that's going on. But Baker Mayfield, every week it's like the cardiac kids with him. They seem to be down, and the next thing you know, he's pulling them out again, even against Philly last week. It looked like the Eagles had that one well in hand, and then next thing you know, Baker Mayfield's got them coming back. So, I reserve the right to change my mind a little bit to see what the injury report goes, but I'm going to lean with the Bucks on this one, on the road.
Okay, Mike, how about you, bud?
All right. Well, you know what? I'll switch things up a little bit. I'm going to say the Seahawks take this one at home, and simply for the reasons that Steve mentioned. If Bucky Irving is going to be unable to go, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Rachaad White to be that complement to Baker Mayfield. And with Mike Evans already out, to me, I think that tips the scales in the favor of the Seattle Seahawks, especially with the way that defense is playing right now. You made a very good point about that, Derek. This team is hopping on all cylinders, and they can move the football as well. So right now, if you're asking me to pick this game, if Bucky Irving is going to be out, and it looks like he's going to be, I'm going to take the Seahawks in this one. Close game. I take them by a field goal, but I still think they pull it out.
I'm gonna follow the Mike train on this one. I'm taking the Seahawks somewhere in a one-score game. I just think at home, if Mike Evans was in, I might consider it. To Steve's point, friggin' Baker Mayfield, man, I mean, I can see why some people might not like him, but he definitely knows how to rally his teammates, and he fires up people around him, and he is a spark plug as a quarterback. And again, DraftKings has them as also a 3.5 point favorite, the Seahawks, I mean. So let's get into the game, gentlemen.
Real quick, we talked about the mic'd up moments.
Yep.
And you mentioned earlier the wide receiver from Ohio State, the rookie for Tampa.
Okay.
I saw a great clip. It was from earlier in the season where Mayfield threw it. And the rookie, and I always butcher his name, but he went up and tried to make a one-handed catch, and Mayfield went over to him after they came off the field, and he's like, "Hey, Rook, don't disrespect me there. 2 hands on the football, catch it with 2 hands."
I did see that clip as well.
Yes, and then he went over to the coach, Mayfield did, and he goes, "I just told him, don't disrespect me. Put 2 hands on the ball," and he had a big smile on his face. And I was like, "Yeah, those are the kind of things I just love." And but that's Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that it's neither here nor there. But
well, we talked about this at the top of the show, gentlemen. And Mike Reese just tweeted it out. Jelani Tavai will practice today. And so that does open and start his clock for the 21-day window for them to activate him or not. So tip of the cap, as Mike likes to say, to Mike for bringing that up, and we'll have to just keep an eye on that situation. Wouldn't expect him to be activated this week, though, personally. But let's get into it, guys. Patriots, Bills, predictions, final thoughts on the game. I will just note this because I've been doing it for spread purposes since some people like it. I know I do. The Patriots on DraftKings were 8.5 point dogs yesterday. The line has now shifted a little bit to 7.5 points. So there's a little money coming in on the New England side. But the Bills are expected to win by more than one possession, according to Vegas and DraftKings. So I'll just throw that out there for the sake of conversation. Steve, over to you first.
Yeah, and again, I would love to see the Patriots go into Buffalo and take this one, because then, the Mike Vrabel rebuild hype train would be in full steam ahead mode, especially with 3 winnable games coming up on the schedule. However, I like Buffalo at home in this one. I think the Patriots will cover that spread. Okay. But I like Buffalo in this one, and I'm going to go with a fairly high-scoring game. Buffalo 31-20, 31-25.
That's so funny. That's so funny, and I'll tell you why in just a second because of my score prediction. Mike, to you, bud.
Yeah, we really are doing shows together a lot. We're starting to think alike, Steve. My final score is eerily similar to that as well. Look, I think I'm in the
Mine's
same
2
boat as
points
Steve
off.
right now. And Derek, obviously, we'll get your chance to to talk on that in a moment. But I see a lot of the same matchup difficulties that Steve just mentioned, and to me, I think Buffalo's running game will have success against the Patriots' ground attack this week, and I think that's going to be the difference maker. Going to take some pressure off of Josh Allen and be able to play his game the way he wants to play it. And that will allow him to be able to use not only the intermediate areas of the field, but I think he's going to be able to take some deep shots on this secondary. I worry about that safety position. I worry about Jalen Hawkins not able to go in this one. I like Del Pettis as a potential replacement. This kid is a hard hitter. He's a tough kid. And if anybody can get in there and can go undaunted into Buffalo and play the best game he's played, Dell is the guy. But you're talking about Josh Allen. You're talking about one of the best players in the league and the reigning NFL MVP. Just think it's too much on that level. Buffalo's defense has improved. They're able to contain what New England does. And I think they will do it more often than not. Based on that, I like the Buffalo Bills in this one by a final score of 31-24.
Okay, I swear, I this is not a joke. Okay, I'm gonna give you my. I just need to give you my score prediction first before I even jump into the analysis. Okay, Steve, you went 31-25. Mike, you went 31-24, and I before the show went 31-23. So I said that is too funny. That is hilarious, and I know people might think that is like some kind of like skit. It's not. This is we did no show prep. I didn't share it with anybody. That was in my mind. I did.
That's
I was
fine.
thinking about maybe 33-24, and I was like, maybe I'll go 31-23. And I was playing with that this morning about an hour before the show started. So that's hilarious. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. To me, the biggest factor, this is a young Patriots team that's still building, and they're coming off a big win. And I would really love to be a fly. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the Patriots building this week to see how Mike Vrabel balances tempering the excitement of a blowout win and checking egos, and also keeping their heads up and propping them up as a young team and players. I think my biggest fear in this game, obviously, Josh Allen is just an absolute alien, and he's a tough one. My two biggest fears, though, are basically the run game and tackling. I have to see it. I have to see it from the Patriots. If they can contain, Cook and Allen relatively. I do, and just kind of keep them, kicking field goals and stuff like that, keep them out of the end zone. I think they have a puncher's chance. If we're getting screen passes to James Cook that Christian Ellis misses the tackle and he's going for 20 yards at a pop, and then, Marcus Jones is on Khalil Shakur, for example, and it's a slant and it goes for 30 yards, and Josh Allen's able to scramble and have big running plays, as well as what we know he can do downfield, you're going to be put in a blender. And I would love to see Milton Williams and Christian Barmore take over this game. But I do think it's not just the interior pressure. They still need some outside contain. So it's going to be, I'm curious what Vrabel and Zach Kerr's plan is for Josh Allen's mobility, because I do think that's, as much as the scary's been, the secondary's been a little shaky, those are my factors that I just can't ignore. Anybody have any other final thoughts, or I'll have Mike take us out?
I think this is a good way to end the show. We're all on the same page right there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not in the Patriots' favor, but
Well, I mean,
anything
yeah.
can happen. So
and you have to call it like you see it. I mean,
yep, that's how we do it. Mike, take us out, bud.
Absolutely. And you know what, gentlemen, at the very least, at the absolute minimum, Patriots fans can relish in the fact that all three of us were wrong if the New England Patriots go up to Buffalo and hit the defending champs in the mouth and try to steal one in Orchard Park. Nothing would be better for Patriots Nation, I assure you. And folks, we appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here on Patriots No Huddle, making us a part of your weekly Patriots coverage. On behalf of my good friend Steve Balistrieri, my Patriots paisan himself, the great Derek Havens, my other good friend on this pod, and of course myself, Mike Debate, encourage you to stay safe, stay well, be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you back here again next time on Patriots No Huddle.